Reorg Chats. So, of course, life, the pandemic, the election, we're not going to get into all these things. Um, my original first segment was one that I had planned, but then while thinking through the whole process, I decided to go with somebody that I think deserves to be the very first person interview of Reorg Chats, because without him, as far as his artistry, there would no be any Reorg Chats. I mean, there's me, of course, and the people that I work with make it all possible, but he makes Reorg as a small business look good and has for the past almost 10 years. So today's segment is the triple threat, art. Art is a triple threat, or is it not a triple threat? So today's subtitle is how to express yourself in a creative and organized manner. Is that even to be in sync or not? Because when you think of creative people, you never think of them as organized. You're thinking of them as just creatives. But now we have different types of creatives. But in this case, we're just keeping it simple and thinking of creatives in a form of art, whether it be graphic design, art, performing arts, etc. But again, for today's segment, we're just keeping it graphic art and art, as in visual arts. And what does that mean? And is graphic design art? Is it not? So with further ado, I would like to bring in my very good friend for 20 years. God, I kind of gave my age. No Botox, people, just FYI. Malcolm Williams. Mal, if you want to join, he is been very good. And
hey guys.
Oh, it's so funny. I was like, he's gonna do something really crazy.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
as expected. So just like me, we're New Yorkers, right? We're New Yorkers, so we don't say coffee, we say coffee. And Mal is an artist, as you can see, but also a skate comedian.
My New York backdrop.
And he has a New York backdrop, right? Even though he's out in the Pacific Northwest, right? Where are you now? Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest. That's
Pacific
right.
Northwest.
You know, it's like I'm driving down the FDR. Check that out. All right.
As long as I've known you, you always bring humor to your artistry. Obviously, comedic artistry, performing artist, which is a form of performing artistry, excuse me, your visual arts. You're an author by accident, as you like to say, right? Because he's the person that hates to write, but I think he's one of the best writers that I know out there. He's written some. I'm sorry, what?
So I fell into writing books because I was looking for a different creative outlet.
And like most of us want a creative outlet, and they just write a blog post. He writes 4 books. That's his. Oh, excuse me. Is it 4? I'm sorry, 5. Correction.
Is that backwards? I can't see.
Beep. Art. It's graphic design. The next one is one of my personal favorites.
Art.
Okay, excuse me. This is my show. Excuse me. Show? This is called Reorg Chats, not Mal Arts Chats. Okay?
I thought it was Mal Arts Chats.
Okay. Your own. Okay? No, honestly,
that's what I'm gonna do. As soon as I get off this interview, I'm going online and I'm making my own thing. Because you know what? I can't deal with this. It has to be about me.
Are you giving me a Trump Twitter attitude?
Yeah. Yes. I'm saying it right now. I'm making my prediction. You know, Reorg Chats is going to be renamed Malart Chats. This is what's happening. You know, stop the count. If you voted, I'm throwing out your mail vote. No. And that's a double entendre. Any dudes who are voting for me, I'm throwing your vote out.
All right. So love you, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time from your family, from your wife, from your art, from work, from clients to just chat with us. You know that I'm a huge fan of the work that you do, as well as many others are. Your work has always been top notch in my agenda. Actually, I had a friend of mine and also a fellow parent in my neighborhood where I'm quarantining that he said the other day, I was like, well, look at what I have for a concept for a website. And he's like, I'm so tired of you saying you're a designer. Your designer, good friend. Like he's the holy grail when it comes to anything graphic design or anything that you do. Like, I'm starting to get very jealous. And he's a fellow Cubano, so I didn't take it. Oh, I know that person. That's me, guys. That was an awesome gift from years ago, which I love.
The
Um,
book. You
it's
know
in the
well.
book, I know. Yeah, buy the book, and you'll have reorg chats in your living room or in your coffee table or in whatever. Which is a really
Exactly.
beautiful book. It's actually called The Soliloquy of Beauty, Mal's Women of Color.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful book. I will include the link on the bottom of this video to his Instagram as well as to his professional portfolio and to the self-publisher where you can buy any of the books that we'll talk about today. So Mal, let's talk about this
Yeah.
thing when I kind of threw this concept of reorg chats outside of the creative process, right? To make it look good, right?
Right.
That's what you do. You make us look good creatively, right?
That's what I do.
Logo, collateral
That's,
material over the years, huh?
that's what it is. That's what
That's what
graphic
you
design
do.
has nothing to do with marketing.
So
Has
so I
nothing to do
know
with
that
advertising. It's just to
when
make
you
you
heard
look
me say the word graphic design and art, having read one of your books a little bit, you kind of were like cringing, like, no.
I'm always
Stop.
changing,
So
which is
so before we go, so we, I
that's
know,
why it's the title.
I know.
This shit ain't this shit ain't art. It's graphic design.
So let's start with your journey, and I always kind of mock this word, not in an offensive way, because I feel like now
Mhm.
when we live in this world of Zoom, everyone freely uses the word journey. So let's talk a little
Yeah,
bit about your journey. I could tell people how we met, but I feel like everybody starts with that. We are not traditional, as you know.
this is true. And wait, is this an adult channel? Should we talk about how we met? No, I'm kidding.
um, yes, it is an adult channel, so don't worry about that.
Oh well, fine. You know, I mean, it was I saw her across
um,
the bar. I looked at her. I
Anyway, so
sent her.
let's talk about, as I'm interrupting you, as I'm interrupting you. Um, when I mentioned this to you, you said, "Oh, ass and elbows," and I was like, "What? This is first of all, this is a decent show. This is a adult professional vlog." And you were
Right.
like, "No. Get your mind out of the gutter. This is what asses and elbows is in the industry, which I am not a part of." So tell me where this whole ass and elbows came about, and
Asses and elbows.
how does it relate to art, design, society? How does it relate to getting organized, and does organization and graphic design are in sync or not? And I
Yeah.
know that's a big question, so let's start with that question. Is Can you be creative and organized, and if so, what does that mean, and what forms
Yeah.
of art or not art can you be organized?
All right. Okay. So it's like you say, it's broad, it's large. So where I'll start first with art, right? Because you talk to 100 artists, you will get 100 different processes.
Mm-hmm.
Some people wake up in the middle of the night, scratch their booty, walk over to their canvas and start painting.
Right.
Other people will say, I need to have a cup of coffee. I have to organize my space in a particular way so that I can grab my pen, my pencil, my whatever, and start working. Other people will, say, I need to ride on the train. If we're in New York, of course, I need to ride on the train, and absorb the New York essence, see the people, the hustle and bustle, and I get inspired by that. So, you know, different artists have different processes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons, like when I was talking to you and I was saying, asses and elbows, it's opinions.
Right.
Everybody has an opinion.
Right.
So opinions are like asses and elbows. Everyone has one, right?
Right.
And so my book pretty much is my opinion on the state of graphic design and not art because they're two separate disciplines, right?
Right.
The artist only has himself to please,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because literally it is 100% acceptable for any artist. If you look at their work, be it a drawing, a doodle, a sketch, a canvas, a painting, whatever, and you go, I like that. That's really interesting. Why did you make their face with a strange little lilt to their mouth? And the artist will look at you and be like, because I fucking felt like it, right? In graphic design, because I felt like it is not acceptable one at all. Particularly because the graphic designer is speaking to a mass audience because the work that we produce as graphic designers has to communicate to what we call in the industry. You ready? This is like technical talk. The target audience, whoever the target audience is. If since this is election season and we just had the vote. If I'm specifically talking to Latinos, I can't start talking about shepherd's pie and how great the fjords are in Ireland because every Latino is going to look, unless maybe there's the Spaniards who are thinking about going on vacation in Ireland, they're going to look at you like, ¿Qué pasó? What? What the hell are you talking about, man? I'm from Florida. I'm in Miami. What the hell do I know about shepherd's pie? Pardon me. I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, but if you know me, I'm offensive to everyone. But the point is, you have to speak to your audience. So, can you hear me? Okay, because for some reason my mic turned off. No? Okay, all right, fine. I'll keep talking because I'm going to assume I see you talking. I can't hear you. So I'm going to just keep
I
talking.
had you on mute. I just had you on mute because I wanted you to be like not have any background noise.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. And we're recording. This is live, right?
This is live.
I hope you're going to edit this because this is great. No, seriously. Right. So with graphic design, you're speaking to an audience, sometimes a specific audience or sometimes to a mass audience. So the two things are very different. Again, to reiterate, the artist has only himself to satisfy, whereas the graphic designer is speaking to an audience of, millions or however many that the target audience is. So that's it in a nutshell. And if you're talking about organization, graphic design is most definitely an organized endeavor because in order to get to a final solution, like use reorg chats as our example. In order to get to that final logo, I first had to organize my thoughts. Is like, who is Noel? Who is reorg? Who is the potential audience who are going to be viewing the logo, right? And then from there, I then organize, my steps in my process, which once again, let's go back to my book because I just happen to have it here. Look, can you see that? Well, probably not. It actually says the graphic design process, which starts with research. Then I do a ton of sketches. I do some roughs. See, I'm actually reading from my book. This isn't me. This is.
We'll actually add. Well, actually, they're popping up on the bottom on this recording.
Right from the roughs, it then goes into comps. Then I go into my construction, and then comes the finals. And the final is, in this case, is the logo. So it's organized in the sense of each step in the process has its own, well, let's say silo. That's the lane that I have to be in.
There's a structure to when you're doing graphic design. It's a creative.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a creative process, but it has a structure.
It most definitely has a structure because design is a process. Design isn't. I woke up on Saturday after Noelle called me and said she needed reorg chats, and I fed my cat, and I went out back, I lit up a cigar, and was like, man, I know what the logo is going to be, and that's what I showed it. It doesn't work that way.
No.
I had a conversation with Noelle. She explained to me what she was doing. She said that it was part of a larger structure. I had already produced the logo for her business reorg. So we said, okay, from that, I applied the same process that I just described. Right. I started with some research. It's like, well, what do other vlog logos look like? I went around, I looked at stuff. I get distracted very easily by bright and shiny objects. So while, looking up logos for you, I'm looking at, different layouts. It's like, hey, look, what is that? Oh, cat videos. Yeah, come on, I want to play with you. Right. And then from there, I go into my sketching.
Right.
I do a bunch of sketches. It sounds like a lot to any graphic design student. I try to do at least 100 or more thumbnails, but because I already knew kind of where you were going and I've worked with you for so long, I didn't have to go through that process as much, only because, you know, we've had these ongoing conversations throughout the year, so I know what your business model is. So that for me, it cut down a lot of that, a lot of the noise and clatter that I would have gone through in my thumbnailing stage. So, you know, I produced probably, you didn't see it. This is pretty much for me. You know, I probably did 10 or maybe 50 thumbnails of different logos before I said, you know what, let me bring that back. And that's when I went to the comp stage, which I skipped over a couple of stages only because I've been doing it for so long.
Right. You
I
already
can,
knew. And
right.
I
I don't
think not to
recommend
toot
anyone else
myself,
doing it.
not to toot my
You
own
know,
horn. And as you know, the interns that I've worked with on and off throughout the years, and the extended people and colleagues that I've worked with, which many of you know, um, I did share those with him. So, like you said, to add to Mal's point, there is obviously those of us, which most of us, I want to say, on this platform, based on the audience, kind of are familiarized with what that process is,
right.
which I personally love, and I think that's what I love about our relationship, and how I can just throw an idea, which sometimes, being Latina and being Cuban, and again talking with my hands, which I promised on a side note that I wouldn't do, but look, it's 42 years of this. So like I said, give me a minute. Like I said, I lost my train of thought you know of collaboration. So that my Spanish Cubanness, can be like, this is what I think we should do. And I sat with the
Yep.
team, and they'll call you and be like, this is what we think we want to do. And she wants to go this way and we want to go that way, but maybe we should think about this. And you know how to take all those crazy conversations and make something of it, which
Yeah.
is a very rare quality.
That, what do you call it? Professionally, as a
That's where you're
graphic
comedic.
designer,
And I wanted to segue into a little bit about, um, just to segue back with, not talk about the pandemic, but there is an element of creativity, of a creative explosion that's going on right now, whether
oh yeah.
intentionally or unintentionally. I think it's a little bit of both. And I want to just,
I mean,
having written so many books and having taught here in New York, um, as an adjunct
and
professor
New Jersey.
graphic design for many years. I would love for you to share just a little bit of insight on, what are ways that people can express themselves creatively, which is, again, not always organized, because obviously we touched on the subject of graphic design, but just on a artistic, visually. I
I
know
mean,
that one of, and I always say, and I always, refer to you as a triple threat, because you are a graphic designer, you're an adjunct professor, you're actually like a quadruple threat, right? You're a trained comedian, you're a visual
I am.
artist, a cigar aficionado, which is not a career, but I think for you it is a career.
It could be. I thought about selling them on the streets of New York. And like in between,
Exactly.
I'm like,
And
you
you're
know
a
what?
graffiti artist, right? You're that 80s kid that was painting on the subways. But guys, we're not going to punish him for that.
That,
Because there's
I
a
mean, what
whole
do you call it?
museum about it, right? Street art
If
is
I,
a huge,
if,
had
if
got
I
a
want to be
renaissance,
all
like,
political, you know, I shake my fist at Koch for coming in with the galvanized chains that the paint doesn't stick to. But
exactly.
I'm not going to go there. Every
Right.
graffiti writer who's listening to me, they know it from New York. They know exactly what I'm talking about,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is which is great because it is great only in the sense that it gave graffiti writers a segue to stop using the city as canvas and start putting graffiti on canvases, and it gave us a path to go into the galleries
Mhm.
because by that point, graffiti was really being seen in the art world as another form of art, not just a bunch of kids scrawling on the sides of buildings,
Right.
right?
And then
Because
it's expanded socioeconomically, right? Because you, having traveled and lived overseas, from personal experience and professional experience, I mean, you go to Germany and it's an explosion.
I mean,
So it
graffiti
was
is
almost
everywhere.
like, huh?
Graffiti is everywhere, quite
It's
literally.
everywhere.
I have, I have yet to go to a city, a town, uh, a country, whatever, where I haven't seen graffiti. I've seen some great art, and then I've seen some stuff is like, wow, I just stepped back into New York in the '70s
And
because
you're in
you know
Germany.
I'm yeah, exactly,
Right.
and it's like,
Right.
wow, people really
Right.
like
Well, like, you were in
always
Italy, right? You were in Italy right before this pandemic for your honeymoon, because he got married again
yeah,
to his lovely
right.
wife,
So
who's, and he's just, I'm gonna like She'd probably be like, I did not wanted to include myself in this video. He married a West Coaster.
Yep.
West Coaster, not a New Yorker, because he already did
No,
that.
not anymore. But I mean, her attitude, she might as well be from New York.
She's
I mean,
but
true.
right, you guys were just in Italy for your honeymoon. So how
Yeah.
tell us a bit about, I mean, Italy being one of the, pinnacles of art, right? At least that's what we learn in school, right?
That is what we learned in school. I mean, I got two things on that. What do you call it? While we're on
So
the tour bus.
I'm sorry. So tell us a little bit about, speaking about graffiti art all over the world. What was that experience like? I mean, I know obviously it wasn't your first time overseas, but how was art, graffiti art, if you saw any, in Italy?
I did. I saw a lot. I mean, again, it's remarkable at how similar it is because, as an art form, it has its own particular look. So, to be in another country, it felt incredibly comfortable because it's like, I'm like this on the side of the bus as I'm like going through the streets of Rome, and I'm like, "Ooh, what does that say?" And it's like, somebody, say somebody took the graffiti name Respecto, and it's like I'm looking at that, and I'm like, "Oh, I can read that. That's wild style." Or I'm seeing bubble letters, I'm seeing throw ups, I'm seeing tags, and I'm like, "Wow, some of it I can read, most of it I couldn't because it's in a different language." But still, it was very familiar because graffiti art has a real look to it. At least the type of graffiti that I do, where you manipulate words and letters. Right? We're not talking like Banksy, where people are throwing up different types of art, where they're using uh, found art and stencils, and they're creating these huge murals of graffiti.
Right.
I'm talking specifically like old school New York, letters, words, burners.
1980s New York. 80s New York.
Actually, 1970. Well, the 80s is when it became the golden age, but I'm talking 70s type graffiti.
You just gave your age, but I'm not going to say that for you.
I mean, you'll remember people in New York.
No, I won't remember the 70s. Right. I was born in the 70s. Don't put me out there.
Other people in New York are going, "Man, I hate riding the trains. All this graffiti, I can't see out, and I missed my stop last time." And it's like, but
now you see it and now you see it in Times Square. Well, pre-pandemic, in the stores, right? Because you've seen like the chain stores, which it's everywhere. It's nice to see how art sort of like continues to have renaissances, right? In different places throughout history, in different forms, etc.
Yeah.
How it constantly reorganizes itself, for lack of a better term, right?
It does. I mean, yes, because art is one of those things that it's everywhere, and art is born out of, say, the human experience. So it doesn't matter, I'm a cobbler and I'm throwing together some shoes. At some point, I may feel creative and, cut the tongue on the shoes differently.
Right.
And all of a sudden that, give birth to a whole new shoe art, where people are, wearing different types of shoes because, us cobblers got together and tried to express ourselves through, using shoes.
Right.
Or, if I was carving a chair, or if I was building a table, or, I'm bored walking through the park and I pull out my knife and I start carving faces on the sides of trees. Art is literally whatever, which if, you're always talking to me and I'm always going to go back to the difference between art and design. That's the beauty of art. Art literally is whatever the artist conceives, which is very different from graphic design, which is I'm always thinking about who am I talking to whenever I produce a piece of design, because that's what's most important. Like if you buy the book, this shit ain't art, it's graphic design, you'll see it's a 2-page spread. Design equals communication.
Right.
To me, I could have ended the book right there, but then it would have been like a pamphlet, not a book. So
right. I actually like that. So design equals communication, and it's so true. And I think that's what
it's been trademarked, so no one can steal it from me.
It's trademarked. He's like, it's trademarked, so don't even try it, lady. No, don't worry. I know all about it. And with that, I think that's a good closing on, design equals communication. Art is creativity. Yes, you may lit up your cigar.
creativity, design is communication.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
well,
can you repeat
actually,
that again? Wait, repeat that
I was
again.
about to say, thank you. I got to write that down. Make sure I trademark that. Art is creativity, design is communication.
Love that. Art is creativity and design is communication. So
That's
true.
right.
Please make sure to subscribe to our channel. And we will have Malcolm's Instagram and all his social media handles, as well as his website of where to get his
And
5
don't forget to buy
amazing
my book.
books. The first one is that he's repeatedly, this ain't art, it's graphic design, visual communication,
That's right.
and the graphic design process, which is that one.
That's right.
The
That's
Soliloquy of Beauty, Males, Women of Color, the graphic,
I hate the fact that my
the
face is
graffiti
so pretty.
coloring book, which thank you for that, which I love. I've yet to show it to Liam. I think he's at that age where he totally has gotten into that, but that's a side note. The 7 Keys to Unlocking Your Wildest Ambitions, which I
That's the
think is great.
entrepreneurial spirit.
I'm sorry. Oh,
That's
excuse
the
me. It's unlocking your
entrepreneurial spirit.
entrepreneurial
7
spirit.
Keys to Unlocking Your Wildest Ambition. That's actually the first book that I wrote.
Yes, it is. It is, and which I love. And I think that's actually a great book to really dive into, especially during this period of time,
Yeah.
because it's
And it's an
applicable
easy
not
read.
just. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said it's an easy read. I purposely,
It's
it's
really
like
an
a,
easy read.
yeah, it's like 120 pages. It sounds like a lot, but it's literally, it's 4 by 6. It's a small book. And I did that on purpose because when I was doing my research for the book, I read you know, the 48 laws of
Of
power. And I'm
power.
like, yeah, I'm like, this is a big, thick book, and it's giving me references, and it's telling me about how Napoleon used, his political power to. I'm like, how is,
You're like,
knowing
I
how
just want to know what those 48 laws are. I don't want any historical
I,
referendum right now. That's
exactly,
just teach
and
me
like,
something.
right. So I wrote
Don't
the
get
book,
philosophical.
with that premises, which is why it's an easy read. It's really small.
It is
I'm
an
like,
easy read, guys. And like I said, we'll have the link on the bottom to where to get all the books. And one that, just real quick, to wrap it up, is Yesteryear Today. It's Black Folk Tales book, which was really bizarre when you
yeah,
told me through a mutual friend of ours that you were writing this. I was like, what is okay? I was like, but he's an artist on all levels. So who am
all
I
levels.
to be
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
what
it's a
is
book
he
of
doing?
folktales
And I'm sure your wife tells you this all the time, but I get it.
all the time.
It's important to express yourself, guys, in
Yeah,
any form that you can, or that you want to. I mean, this was something new for us, this whole YouTube thing. People have always told me that I've worked with, your personality is so out there, you should be on television. I'm like, I don't really care to be famous. I'm grateful that there's platforms like
really.
YouTube.
Who doesn't
I'm
want to be
sorry.
famous?
Huh?
Who doesn't want to be famous?
I don't care to. That's not my thing.
Okay. All right. Hey, yeah. I
Um,
guess I can
but
agree.
I'm okay with like having 30 million subscribers to this channel. So I guess that's a form of popularity, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so again, thanks, Mal, for your time.
Very welcome. Thanks for
Congratulations. I
having me
know I've
on,
told
Noel.
you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Of
Thank you.
course. How can I not?
I know.
So again,
Look at me.
thank you so much for your time. You're funny, guys. This is our conversations all day, every day,
All day, all night.
all day,
We can't get a
all
pause
night.
in edgewise when we talk.
Exactly. So again, to everyone, stay safe, stay strong, and stay organized. And in this case, we're going to throw in stay creative.
Very creative.
Very creative. Thank you, bud. Love ya. Stay safe.